Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dakota's Political Circle. So I have breaking news for you guys. Even though it is morning, this is going to be posted the next day of the breaking news, but I just want to post it now just so you guys see it. So basically, Joe Biden has officially dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed Kamala Harris. So basically, Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee anymore, which is very, very surprising. I guess the Democrat Party made him cave so hard that they forced him to get out of the race, which is crazy to think because it's just crazy to think that a president, even though I understand he's not really coherent and he's very old, but at the same time, a president that literally won his party's nomination already has literally dropped out because everyone is forcing him to. He's losing sponsors. He's losing, he's literally losing support all around, and because of that, he dropped out. There isn't just no other way to put it. Like, he didn't drop out because he didn't drop out on his own terms, is what I'm saying. I really honestly feel like he didn't drop out on his own terms, and he just did it because the Democrat Party told him to. And he endorsed Kamala Harris very surprisingly, because I did hear that he wasn't going to actually endorse her beforehand, which is very crazy to think because he didn't want to endorse Kamala Harris from what a lot of people said and a lot of the rumors that we're talking about and everything like that. And it's just crazy to think what really transpired in all of this. And I honestly think what actually happened was Joe Biden didn't want to get out of there. And basically the Democrat Party was basically going to tell him, well, it's basically our decision. So it's either you endorse Kamala Harris or you don't endorse her, you're going to be out of here. That's what I think basically ended up happening in all of those meetings. They basically told Joe, you can't win. There's not a chance you can win in this race. Just give it to Kamala. That's probably what ended up happening. Now, obviously, Kamala isn't just taking the nomination. She will be doing it's not going to be a primary. It's probably going to be like a convention primary. It's going to be like certain candidates are up for grabs, and probably the electors are going to be voting on who should be the nominee. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. It's probably not going to be by state, like by state, like voting. I think it's going to be like the electors themselves are going to vote on who should be the nominee, which in my opinion is just, I would say it's a little bit more constitutional than just picking an outright nominee. But at the same time, I do think it's really dumb that you just oust your nominee just because he can't win, just because you see that he can't win in polling. This isn't like the election. This is polling. And just because of that, you're like, well, let's get him out of there. It's just crazy to think that. Now, obviously, it's very weird because I understand Kamala is younger, so she has a little bit more of a advantage than Biden in some aspects. But at the same time, remember, she is still part of his administration, and she really takes the front load in a lot of stuff that Biden has done bad. So honestly, it's really not that big of a disadvantage for Trump. I really think Kamala could be more of an advantage for Trump in some aspects. The only difference is that Kamala has more energy than Biden, so she can step up in certain circumstances. So as long as Trump can get around that and debate her on a good stance, because she's not really a great debater either. So I think that Trump can win in this scenario no matter what. It's just he has to be a little bit more consistent than with Biden, where he didn't have to do anything because Biden would stumble on himself. But I will read a little bit of this just to talk about it. So President Joe Biden announced he is dropping out of the race. He did endorse Kamala Harris, upending the 2024 campaign and embarking on Democrats on an unprecedented process to replace him less than 4 months before the election. And he did say, it has been a great honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president and for the remainder of my term. So, and that's basically majority of what they talked about. And I think down here it does talk about, it does talk about, Hillary and Bill Clinton did support Kamala Harris. They endorsed her. Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom are among those saying Harris should take Biden's place. So, yeah, they're also kind of supporting her. Gretchen Whitmer is not one of the ones. I just wanted to mention that. She is not one of the ones. And also Barack Obama I actually looked. He has not endorsed her yet either. I think Barack Obama is waiting until who the nominee is. He isn't just going to pick one. And the delegates from the Democrat will ultimately vote on who becomes the party nominee. So I was correct. They will vote on it on a virtual roll call, formalizing the nomination on August 1st before the convention. Okay, that's kind of interesting. That's actually interesting. I did not know that. So I'm kind of glad I read that. So on August 1st, they will be voting on who should be the nominee. So it will be interesting to see how they do that. I mean, it's probably just going to be a virtual roll call from what they say. So, I mean, it's very interesting to see that. But, I mean, it's very odd as well. But at least they're voting and not just picking. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a good side to that, I guess you could say. But it's really not up to the people, which is kind of annoying. But most likely they're going to be picking Kamala Harris. It's probably going to be between probably Kamala, Gretchen Whitmer, and maybe someone else. Maybe Hillary Clinton. Well, actually, maybe not because she endorsed Kamala. So I'd probably say not Hillary Clinton. It's probably going to be Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, and maybe someone else. I think Joe Manchin was mentioned that Joe Manchin might also try to run against her in the convention. So, I mean, that's a possibility. Now, Joe Manchin actually could beat Trump. I'm completely honest right there. Joe Manchin can actually beat Trump. Now, obviously, the Democrats despise Joe Manchin. So even if he does do it, it's just not going to work out. But, yeah, that's basically what that talks about. What's really interesting what they're going to be doing. But I do think that Trump is going to be fine in this scenario. It's just he just has to work a little bit harder. But at the same time, you got to remember... and also, I did see that Kamala did raise $45 million in probably about an 8-hour span, I believe. And which I mean, it's kind of expected because it's a new nominee and they're a little bit energized. I understand that. And a lot of people are freaking out on the Republican side, but I wouldn't freak out if I were you. It's just something that happens when you get a different option. And I think that's a big thing for the Democrats. But at the same time, remember, it's $45 million. Elon Musk is almost equaling that each month for Trump because of what happened at that assassination attempt. So basically, we have a Soros in Elon Musk. So it's going to be really interesting how everything's going to work out with fundraising. But I do think the Republican Party is going to do really well with fundraising, even with Kamala as the pick. Now, I do want to show the RCP average for Trump versus Kamala. So with Biden, I believe it's a 3-point Trump advantage. With the RCP average with Kamala Harris, it's a 1.7. But remember, she was just announced. So we're probably going to have to wait maybe like 2 weeks till you find out what the actual average is going to be. You're going to see maybe a little bit more of a spike with Harris because everyone's freaking out with Harris possibly being president and stuff like that. So you might be like seeing maybe like a Harris +1. You might see like a Trump +1, maybe a Harris +2 every now and again. But for now, until like 2 weeks from now, and then you'll probably see like the actual average out, which will probably be like a Trump +2 is what I'm assuming. Maybe a Trump +3, depending on how bad Harris is. But yeah, the most recent poll, which was done obviously before Biden announced it, it is a Trump +3 over Harris, which is a very good advantage for Trump. So if that sticks, I do see Trump having an advantage over Harris, just like he had over Biden. I think the main outlier is Harris is not old, Trump's old, but Trump is coherent, and Biden wasn't coherent. So Harris is just more of like Trump can attack the Biden administration and just say Harris was the problem for those as well, because, I mean, she was a part of the campaign. And, I mean, she was a part of the presidency, so, I mean, you can't just deny that. But, obviously, you might want to, if I was Trump, you might want to wait at least until she does get nominated, because, I mean, there isn't really a reason. I mean, you could hate on her, obviously, but at the same time, you should probably wait on the ads and stuff like that until she is officially the nominee, so you have a war chest. And I also do want to show the odds. So as of right now, over Kamala, Trump does have a 65 to 30% chance to beat Kamala. The only two that are kind of toss-ups right now are Pennsylvania and Michigan, which probably because of the uncertainty with Kamala right now. And these are the top Democratic nominee picks, VP picks, possibly. I'll actually show you guys that in a second after I show you the potential picks, and then I'll show you the actual betting odds. But yes, 65 to 30%. Trump has a sizable lead over her as of right now, which is a good thing. I'm luckily she didn't get like a huge boost in the betting odds, which if she did, I'd probably bet on Trump, honestly, because Trump does have a really great chance to win this election. He just needs Pennsylvania. That's literally all he needs. But let me show you the VP picks. So these are the 9 possible VP picks that Kamala could pick, and I'll give you my opinion who I think it is probably going to be and who is the best option that Kamala should pick if she really wants to win. So there's Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania's governor, which is a really interesting pick because that would give her a bigger advantage in Pennsylvania. But at the same time, I really don't see a reason Josh Shapiro would end up. I don't see a reason Josh Shapiro would do it. But at the same time, if he did do it, I think she'd have a bigger advantage in Pennsylvania. But I don't think she'd win it per se just because of that. Because Josh Shapiro is liked, but I don't see a Shapiro ticket with Kamala being a massive advantage. I see it as an advantage, but I don't see it as a massive advantage. Now, Mark Kelly is a really interesting one. I think Mark Kelly is probably one of the more likely picks she's going to pick. It'd probably be one of the crappiest, but I can see it as a possibility for getting moderates, I guess, but I don't really see it as a big advantage. Gretchen Whitmer, I think Gretchen Whitmer's already stated that she doesn't want to be a VP, and I think she has presidential aspirations. I could see her possibly facing Kamala in the convention more than being the VP pick for Kamala, and I don't really see her just doing that. I just don't see her being a VP. I just don't see it happening. But Gretchen Whitmer, I think if she picked Gretchen Whitmer, I think it would give her a decent advantage, and especially in the state of Michigan. Like, she could single-handedly win the state of Michigan because of Gretchen Whitmer, because she is very liked in Michigan, which is pretty odd because Gretchen Whitmer is a very unlikable person. But for some odd reason, Michigan loves Gretchen Whitmer, and I have no idea why. So I think if Gretchen Whitmer was picked, if she really wanted to do it, I think you would see Michigan and possibly Wisconsin definitely go to Kamala Harris. And then there's Andy Beshear. I think Andy Beshear, I think it would be decent for her to have him as the VP, but at the same time, I really don't think there's a big advantage for Andy Beshear. I think Andy could. I don't really think he can make many gains in many states. I think he'd be just a very average pick. Some people are afraid of Andy Beshear, but I really don't see him getting a great advantage in any way. Obviously, he's the governor of Kentucky, and he did win, and he is a moderate as well. He did win the election as a Democrat in Kentucky. I can see him getting more votes in Kentucky, but I just don't see him getting an advantage in any way. Roy Cooper. Now, Roy Cooper is probably a stupid pick because I don't see him being an advantage whatsoever. He's like a Mike Pence pick. You pick, well, actually, I don't want to say Mike Pence. Mike Pence actually helped with evangelicals. I would say he's more of I don't know. It's hard to describe him. A very average pick. If you picked a very average person, I think that would be Roy Cooper. If you picked a very average person that you just want to do a decent job, that's Roy Cooper for the Democrats. And I think Roy Cooper is probably the one Kamala is going to pick, mainly because he's very average, he's very moderate, but I don't see him making a big advantage. And honestly, I don't really think he'd do anything good. He would just be average. He'd just be like, oh, you get him, you don't get any backlash, you don't get any support. That's just basically how I see Roy Cooper. Gavin Newsom, I think Gavin Newsom would give an advantage in some battleground states as a possibility, because Gavin Newsom is liked in some instances. So I would say it's a possible advantage, just like Gretchen Whitmer. But at the same time, Gavin Newsom, I think, has presidential aspirations. And I do think Gavin Newsom probably would. I think he'd rather have presidential aspirations than VP aspirations. So I really don't think Gavin Newsom would do it at all. And then there's J.B. Pritzker. This would be a very stupid pick. I think this one would literally hurt Harris in some ways. Pritzker, I think that's his name, Pritzker. He would not be a good pick. I really do not think he would be a good pick. And he also did not endorse Harris either. I really don't think he's going to help. And also, he isn't really going to do it either, probably. Maryland Governor Wes Moore. I think that one's also a possibility. I'd say that's a more likely possibility. I think that's a possibility like Roy Cooper, I believe his name is. Yeah, I think it's Roy Cooper. I think that's kind of like a Roy Cooper pick, except you bring out more of the black vote. So I would say that's also a possibility as well. It would be very interesting to see. And also, he's very young. So, that's a possibility. That would be probably a dark horse, I would say. And then Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, I really don't know how to describe what would... Honestly, the only vote I could see him bringing out is maybe the gay vote and possibly... I mean, some people do like him. I mean, he's a likable guy. I would say it's a decent pick. I wouldn't say it's a bad pick, but he would get demolished by JD Vance in a debate. Like, he would whoop JD. I mean, JD Vance would whoop Pete Buttigieg. So, I mean, I think it would be a good pick, as in people might like him, but he's going to get spanked in a VP debate. Like, there's just no saving his life if Pete was the VP. It's more about his debating skills than him being a likable guy, because he's a likable guy, but those debating skills are going to get stomped on if he is the VP. But I do think the most likely scenario is Roy Cooper. I think Roy Cooper's probably going to be the choice there. And also, let me just show you this, just because I was going to tell you. So these are the Democratic VP nominee odds. Now, Cooper is the top pick, most likely, and then Shapiro in second, then Kelly, and then Beshear. So I do think, I mean, I even said Cooper is probably going to be it, because he's the most average choice you can get. It's the most average. I wouldn't say JD Vance is average, but in my opinion, JD Vance was probably like the safe pick for Republicans out of most of them, and Roy Cooper is probably the safe pick for the Democrats. Now, Shapiro would give advantages. I think Shapiro would give advantages, but I just don't see Shapiro wanting to do it. I really don't know, but I do think Cooper is probably going to be the ultimate pick here. Kelly's would be out. I think it would be out in left field, and it would be very odd. But I mean, it's possible. You never know. I mean, look who Hillary Clinton picked. That was an odd pick. Then Beshear would be interesting, but I don't think it would help much. She might gain like a little bit of support in Kentucky, but that's about it. Other than that, I do think it'll be Roy Cooper. It's in my opinion, it's probably going to be Roy Cooper. But yeah, that is what happened today. It's just crazy to think that Joe Biden basically got ousted in a way. I would say not physically, but he did get ousted into a corner, just trying to get him out of there, just forcing him out, you know. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments how you feel about what happened. Joe Biden getting kicked out, basically of his presidential run, because they think he's just going to lose no matter what. Which, I mean, possible, but Kamala Harris could be going the same path. But either way, let me know in the comments how you feel about this, and do you think it's unconstitutional? Do you think it was the right move? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. I'm just curious, and also let me know who you think her VP could be, because I'm really not sure. I think it's probably gonna be Roy Cooper, but you never know. But obviously, we'll find out when the DNC convention happens and stuff like that, or close to the DNC convention. Either way. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. My next video possibly could be out in a couple days if polling starts to come out a little bit more for Harris, especially for after today. I'll definitely make a video on it just to talk about it a little bit and stuff like that, because Trump could be fine. You never know. It's probably going to be a odds boost for Harris just because just because of the new news, you know. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.